a train of thought started. So if you want to just go ahead, I can ask questions.
What I was trying to
later.
say to you, when I used to be like a music director, so like about 10 years, I stepped away from being like, the music director. And if you don't know what a music director is or the PD of a radio station is, you basically, you and your program director get together and decide through, research and things like that what to play for the radio station.
Mm-hmm.
And back in the day when I started, it was like I had an older program director and I was the younger, high school kid on the street that he was smart enough to hire me and be like, well, I'm not going to know what an 18 to 34 radio station sounds like, but if I hire a kid that tells me what his friends like, you're in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's basically what happened through the years.
And
and so...
When was that? When did you start off in that way?
I started in 1990.
Okay.
So I was 19 years old?
Yeah.
18 years old? But the thing about it was that's what was so cool about the guy that I worked for, my program director at the time, because he understood that. He was an older guy, and he's like, was sick of seeing older guys like run radio stations, be a rock station, a top 40 station. It doesn't matter. He's like, well, if the kids are the ones being the tastemakers, then hire the kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's been lost too in this whole music thing, and that's why like a lot of this has changed,
Right.
So the progression, though, when I was doing it, there was guitars everywhere. Even in pop music, there was guitars. I mean, Prince played pop.
Yeah.
I mean, Prince was a guitar player. Probably one of the greatest guitar players ever on the face of the planet. And I never knew that until I saw him live. And I'm like, Prince is not considered rock, but he's probably one of the most genius guitar players on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know, Mason, you tell me, I think, I see, the Jonas Brothers, and I see a lot of these guys in pop and all this stuff. A lot of people are playing guitars again. You know what I'm saying? But, not as the main thing. It's like they're using it to be, just, the taste in the song.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it with that kind of stuff, with, pop nowadays, I think it's used in two ways. One is, what you said, it's almost like an accessory for, live.
That's correct. That's what I was trying to say.
You know what I mean? There's that way, but then there's also a lot of great guitar playing on these records that you don't necessarily think of because it's not a showy solo. Doesn't really stand out, but it's tasteful, rhythm playing in the background.
You are absolutely correct about it. I mean, look, even Taylor Swift comes on stage and plays guitar.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I think what you're saying is absolutely what's happened to music. I think the guitar is there. It kind of went away, but in the 80s it went away. With all the synth pop bullshit, it literally did. It was gone. Aha was not considered a band or any of those bands in alternative at the time, or Devo and all those guys. They played guitar, but it was the synth that was the star. And I think that's what's happening. Where when you can make music in your bedroom with Pro Tools, I think it just becomes that. Is it dead? Hell no, it's not dead. There's no way it could be dead because I don't know how old you are. How old are you?
I'm 29.
Okay, you're 29. So a lot of my friends that have kids, and they're in their 40s and probably early 50s, their kids refer back to, Marley and, Zeppelin and stuff like that. A lot of kids in your grade, no matter what, didn't like the music of the current time. So what do? You go back to the cool stuff. You go back to the punk rock, and you go back to the Ramones, and you go back to, Nine Inch Nails in some place, which was, by the way, Nine Inch Nails was a synth band, technically, to people. They didn't know how to get it, but that was all guitar,
Right.
At points.
Yeah.
So I know I'm probably jumping all around because my mind's going in 20 different places. It probably feels like warned you about this.
Well, I'm used to it from Phil, too.
Look, if it wasn't for Dave Grohl, I think it would be dead. I'm going to be honest with you. If it wasn't for the Foo Fighters trying to... And him and Dave Grohl on his soapbox preaching that this is bullshit. You can't let rock go away. There's no such thing. It's probably just in a lull at this moment. Music does that through generations. Things come and things go. And I think that guitars in songs were so predominant in 20, 30 years since the Beatles and Zeppelin and all the way out that when it does go away, it seems like it's the end of the world right now. And I think it's going to go back to that. You know what I'm saying? Because, look, what's old is new again a lot through the years.
Yeah.
Through anything, what's old is new again.
It's always cyclical, yeah.
Yeah, there you go. There's the word. You went to college. I need to finish. There you go.
It's funny you brought up Dave Grohl because not just from the soapbox thing, because I know he does talk a lot about it, but the Foo Fighters are really the only mainstream band I can think of that is still a traditional rock band. They still have the traditional instruments, traditional like songwriting. There are bigger bands right now than them. Imagine Dragons comes to mind, and a few others, but I can't really like call them a rock band in the same way that the Foo Fighters are so obviously a rock band. Do you know what I mean?
You're exactly correct. No, you're exactly correct, and that's why I think. Okay, tell me if I'm wrong about this, but I think when iTunes came out, and in your generation and younger from that, when iTunes came out, it was a major part of your guys' life. And iTunes dictated what music was. Example, they said Green Day was a punk rock band. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So all your music was like put in different sections. What was rock? What was classic rock? What was punk rock? And I think through those blurred lines, like Green Day isn't really a punk band. They're a pop band, but they use punk influence. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like things that happened through the years like that. And you're right. You name another band that's like the Foo Fighters. And I know Dave. Like, I lived in Virginia, and he was there when I was there, and I got very tight with Grohl through the years because when I started, it was right when Nirvana started. It was right when Pearl Jam started, And you got to remember, in like 89, 88, 87, it was coming out of hair band bullshit and coming out of terrible pop music. So people were like, what's the thing? And then the minute you heard Smells Like Teen Spirit, and it sounds so cliche and bullshit, but it was the song that did it. And you're like, holy F. And then you watch Grohl like come like a monster off the drums and like, what the fuck is this guy doing? You know what I'm saying? Like his hands are 20 feet off the heads of the drums.
Right.
And he's still playing. You know what I'm saying?
Totally,
Like it didn't make sense, man. And then all of a sudden you're like, this is so rough. It made your hair on your arm stand up when you saw it because it was so irreverent. It was so like hatred, but yet it wasn't. It was rebellious shit. That hasn't been done in years. But what's rebellion now? You know what I'm saying? Like, what is it? Billie Eilish is. But she doesn't really use guitars. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So, like, you can look at rebellion in different ways. So, I'm all over the place in this interview. But what I'm trying to say is, like, you're right as Grohl being Grohl. Like, he is the one that's kept it alive. And he is the one that's been like, guys, it's not dead. Look at who shows up on my shows. It's the kids. It's the parents. It's everybody, and you're right. Where is it been, and who's going up, and is it radio's fault? And I think it's radio's fault for not playing it either, not playing rock. Is radio even influential anymore?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So, so how are you going to get rock to come back? Is the question. How do you make guitars come back?
Yeah. I mean, to an extent, like you said, is radio relevant? I would say, obviously there's streaming, and more of the younger people are listening to streaming, but I think if I was looking at, just this morning, the top Spotify stream songs, there's not a lot of rock on there. And if it is, it's like, the Imagine Dragons type of stuff.
Right, which isn't rock, right?
No.
Right. So there you go. And you're 29 and you realize that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the question now? You know what I'm saying? Like, where do we is it bad that it did go away? Or is this just life as it is? Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, and I want to hear that from you. Two things: how did we get to this point? And like you were just saying, how does it come back? How does rock come back? Does it come back?
Okay, I'll tell you how we got to this point. And this point is that there's waves in music, and I'll tell you where we got to this. When rock was really, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, you and I will figure it out in this conversation. So when rock was big, we used to listen to albums, because that's all the way you could get your music. So music was gotten by going to the store or going to Best Buy when Best Buy finally had CDs, and you're like, okay, I'm going to buy this. And you stick it in your car, and you drive, or you put it in your thing at home, and it was almost like what a record was to people, but it was a CD, and you just let it track. That's it, man. And you pass through, or cassettes, or whatever it was. We became a singles world when the internet started selling things, and you didn't, in your generation and the newer generations, you don't have to pay attention. There's so much music coming out because we went to be a singles world that the world became just a song and move on. Do you see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it wasn't about the artist anymore. It wasn't about waiting for like what was the next thing from your favorite artist. Do you see what I'm saying? Because there's so much coming at you and so many things and ways to find music that we made an ADD world with music. And we moved music from studios to your bedroom. Do you see what I'm saying? And Pro Tools, you could do things by yourself. And all of a sudden, when I was in the record industry, we would get, tapes from kids, and I'd be like, wow, where did you find studio time in a band? Like, I did that myself in my bedroom. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? Like, really? You could do that? And I think it became simpler to make the sounds of what a guitar was and the sounds of what drums was you couldn't afford to have all 5, 10, 20 instruments. And maybe that, you know what I'm saying, caused the shift. And being on stage, you didn't have to go on stage anymore. You would just have a song, and we'd make a song a hit before the person knew that they could even perform live.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of these things where technology is a beautiful thing, but at the same time, it could kill shit too,
Mm-hmm. I think you're...
Am I not... See where I'm going with this?
You're
kinda?
making sense, and I'm wondering if after a certain point, the iTunes especially was kind of dictating that the single was more important. And I think the artist realized that after a point, and then the shit really hit the fan, and it got really...
Yeah, no, you're right.
They started writing
now,
to have one-hit single.
Right. But now we're talking about singles and stuff, and not even about even the style of music, but the style of music, rock takes you and 4 of your friends in a garage to play something. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think when it went more to being just people making music on their own and they had to go out and find people to play the song, I think things changed. Does that make sense?
What do you mean by find people to play the song?
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, artists would make all this music in their bedroom, and then you'd ask them, hey, man, do you have a band? And they're like, no, I did that all by myself. So do you see what I'm saying? And then after a while, they're like, well, I don't need 5 people. I don't need me. And if I can get a guitar sound from here, from a keyboard, from this or this, maybe I don't need to do that. And, I mean, maybe that's how it shifted. I don't know, but the singles thing definitely had a big deal with it, where all the bands that were rock bands at the time that were used to doing albums, all of a sudden they had to make one song, and if that song didn't compete against 17 other singles or the album, you know what I'm saying, you lose out and then you start fading away.
I get you. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, and that was radio's fault. Let me tell you something. Like, radio and records are the ones that ruined that didn't keep pushing albums. They just wanted, Universal Records and Monty Littman and all these guys were the one-hit wonder guys. You were always, back in the day, if you had a one-hit wonder, that's terrible. You want an artist that you can have, album after album. But then when albums became irrelevant, now you got the shift. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the guitar part of it is where I'm trying to figure out what went wrong, too. So when you ask me, like, what went wrong with the guitars, I'm like, man, they just went away. And you would think that with still all the libraries of, like, Led Zeppelin and the Beatles, or then you go into the grunge era where it's like Nirvana and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden and Metallica. I mean, Metallica is one of the biggest bands in the world, and it's not played on any radio station in Chicago. How fucked up is that?
Metallica's not. Yeah.
There isn't a station that plays it.
Well, if you hear it, you'll hear Enter Sandman and maybe.
It.
Yeah.
But do you see what I'm saying? Like, even Enter Sandman to Drive doesn't barely fucking plays that thing. And it, like, makes us all be like, if we do research at Q101 or KQX, what it's called now, like, if we do research, Metallica will come into the top thing. So, well, then, do you play it or do you not play it? Because that doesn't sound right to people against the Magic Dragons. But then at the same time, Spotify doesn't care what it plays next to what it plays.
Yeah, yeah.
So, look, man, I don't know about the guitar thing, and I'm trying to figure it out myself, but I just think it got swept away when, it's just easier to do music without all of that equipment, maybe? Mm-hmm. Could it have been? Could it have been just when somebody started doing more keyboard sound, it was the next wave? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I did an interview with, I sound like an old guy, the people I'm bringing up, and I don't want it. Mm-hmm. But I did an interview with Gene Simmons once, and I brought this up to him, and I'm like, what happened to rock? And it's when rap and hip-hop became really big, right? Yeah. Which is another thing. Hip-hop became big before this wave, right? like, well, the hip hop guys are now the rock stars. And I was like, well, explain. And he's like, when you would watch a rock and roll video back in the day, or Kiss, or Van Halen, or whatever, he goes, the videos were us in hot tubs with hot girls rolling around in Bentleys. And he goes, now music in rock has become very left, tree-hugging, very, you know what I'm saying, love, and anti-drinking and dry. And he goes, so who's doing that now? He goes, if I'm a kid watching TV and I see, you know, anybody, I see, you know, even when Jay-Z came in and he's like rolling in like gold chains and with all these hot girls, like, who do you want to be? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, think about it. And they became the rock stars, and hip-hop became the rock stars and did a fucking amazing job at it. You know what I'm saying? It was great. And where did guitars go then? Done. Do you see what I'm saying? So maybe that was it. Maybe the shift from when rock and then alternative and grunge went into hip-hop, and that whole hip-hop thing happened, it killed it. And middle America white kids like hip-hop. What are you going to do? Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So now there's not guitars in your thing, there's turntables. Do you see what I'm saying? And there's just a microphone because that's all you need.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and some beats.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're figuring it out now that I'm talking about it, that I think it got sucked in to when grunge turned into hip-hop. Hip-hop came over, then, you know, your Imagine Dragons and the pop starts becoming big, which is now they're just bringing keyboards in. And so maybe the next step is guitars come back. You know what I'm saying? To fulfill the prophecy after all these years.
Yeah. I mean, I have some anecdotal evidence to that, and that's just that for this article, too, I went to visit one of the School of Rock branches. They're all over the place, really. I didn't realize how big they are.
Yeah, no, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. It's insane. And I talked to some of the students there. They're like, you know, juniors, seniors in high school, even younger. And I figured they're there, so they're, you know, they probably know some of the bigger bands and whatnot, but they knew more than me, more than just current bands, but like they're really into 90s, they're really into grunge and shoegaze and stuff. And then they're still pretty into like classic, like, you know, Led Zeppelin,
Isn't
Beatles.
This crazy?
Yeah.
It's so funny you brought this up because that's exactly what is happening. Because all of my friends all send their kids to the School of Rock, and all of them say, dude, James Van Oslo, you should talk to him too.
Oh, I remember him. Yeah.
Dude, you got to talk to Van Oslo because his kid's in high school, and his kid is like Black Sabbath, fucking Maiden, all this shit, and it's like all these kids. So, are you considered a millennial? 29?
Yeah.
Okay, so what's after that? Z? Is that what it is now?
What's that? Oh, Gen Z. Yeah.
Gen Z. So the Gen Zs are now referring back because you guys started a new generation and then got rid of all that stuff, and now they're looking at you guys going, oh, that's old. So now you refer back. Do you see what I'm saying? So now rock is coming back.
Yeah.
So when you said the School of Rock thing, I was totally going to say that whole thing. And I can't believe that you just said that because it's exactly what's happening.
I mean,
it's exactly what's going to happen.
It was a real eye-opener, yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because nobody believes it. But all of my friends come to me and they go, hey, man, my kid wanted to know, like, listen to my Police album. He's like singing like the plum. Like, how the fuck? Like, how do you even find that?
Yeah.
But then I remember going to my dad and going, man, Beatles' second album, they had long hair. Like, that song Revolution is kick-ass. And I remember that going, are you shitting me? Like, you think that's cool? You know what I'm saying? And he goes, I thought that was cool. That's weird. You know? So I think every couple generations, it does go back. But I think the School of Rock generation kids are going to bring it back.
I think so. They're super talented too. Any like preconceived notions I have of like, oh, they probably have ADD really bad and they can't learn an instrument.
Yeah.
It was proven wrong.
You know what I also think in your generation killed the guitar is Guitar Hero.
Yeah.
Guitar Hero was cool, but you weren't playing the guitar.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying? It made you be able to be a star without playing the guitar.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids.
If you think about it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of kids went to try to learn on the actual guitar afterwards and realized, oh no, this is too much work. I thought it was going to be easy.
Guitar Hero, you're absolutely right what you're saying. I think Guitar Hero killed guitar. Like, it really did. It made them frustrated when they went from that. They go, how can I play so good on a video? Then I take the fucking guitar and play the real one, and nothing like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's frustrating to anybody.
Yeah.
I think it backfired. I think Guitar Guitar Hero really backfired a huge generation of kids that wanted to play fucking guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
That's a hot take, but I think there's something there for sure. Yeah.
I think there's something there. I mean, right. I'm not totally it, but I think it contributed.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's interesting. It's you think it's gonna go one way, like, oh, it kind of started with my generation, I think, not being as into rock, because when I was in high school, it wasn't that much bad. It was better, but like Foo Fighters were huge. Green Day was huge because American Idiot and the emo thing was blowing up. But mainstream rock, like, what's weird now though is like the biggest bands in my day were from the 90s still. It was Red Hot Chili Peppers, Weezer,
right?
Green Day, and still Weezer is still like one of the biggest bands. This is like 10 years later.
Yep.
And they're now like 30 years past their prime. Why haven't there been any... Why has rock failed to produce any new big names, really, beyond, I don't know, Vampire Weekend, maybe?
I don't know. And it's the funny thing, and that's the thing. Like, I think that's the question. Is it radio's fault? Is it, like, where did we go wrong? And it's like, it's so funny that you wanted me to ask. Like, I haven't figured it out because I want it back. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, how do you make... So what are the ways that you make kids nowadays, or your generation, what did we go wrong with putting rock in front of you and not making it cool? Like you said, like, how are the Foo Fighters and Weezer out of fucking anybody? Like, we never thought Weezer would still be around. You know what I'm saying? Like, holy shit, man. And I got to work with Rick Rubin and all these guys, and I would sit through it, and Rick would be like, oh, people love it. I'm like, no, and then Rick found Adele. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally from this point, like, things took a shift. And it's kind of like in the disco days, I think. Do you remember when a lot of rock bands, you weren't around, but like if you look back in history, like Rod Stewart, like Blondie, all of them made disco records when disco came out because they weren't selling records.
Yeah, Kiss,
like, they were, like she put rap in fucking the one in Rapture. Do you know what I'm saying? Because she's like, fuck, they're not buying my rock guitar fucking records anymore. Sorry, I'm swearing so much.
No, it's okay. It's fine.
But do you see what I'm saying? So I think it's happened before, but it hasn't happened as deep as in a lockbox as we put it. Do you know what I'm saying? And I don't know why radio won't play it. It's radio's fault too. Radio stopped playing it. Because I don't know if they wanted more female listeners. I don't know why they wouldn't think girls wouldn't like Green Day. You know what I'm saying? Like, or a new rock band. I couldn't tell you, man.
I mean,
what it is, and I'm probably ruining your article because of this.
No,
but it baffles me to this day, and I think about it all the time. And all these things I'm rattling at you are all these things I think of when I sit behind the microphone again and go, man. I mean, Imagine Dragons are okay, but now they're the Nickelback. Now, you know what I'm saying? They are, and people are shitting on them.
Yeah,
and it's just like, I don't even know what to say
anymore. I mean, I've been using them as just shorthand for the state of mainstream rock radio right now. It's a little unfair, but it's true.
Right.
Yeah,
it isn't unfair. It's what. By the way, think about that's the only band that you can think of in the last 10 years that's that big.
I know. Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when in the 90s, when you were a little kid, like, you could name Nirvana, Soundgarden, like, they're all multi-billion, selling. But here it is again. Like, they didn't sell. Once an artist doesn't sell more than one or two singles on a record and be able to do a sophomore and a junior record, like, they're gone.
Yeah.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, they're gone. So I think it's more like rock got caught into this horrible situation where when it became like a singles world and Guitar Hero, I think it was a perfect storm of weird things that happened, and the Foo Fighters were still fucking good, and Green Day's still fucking great. So why don't we just stick with those guys, and it's safe, and they've got a name, and those will be our golds in our new band, and we'll let Billie Eilish take over, which Billie Eilish is fucking brilliant.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She is.
Yeah.
But is she a rock band? I mean, no. She's not in the sense of what 90s is, but is she the new fucking definition of what music is? Fuck yeah. And I love her for that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I'd almost... one of my questions for you was, do you think you can make rock music without a guitar in it. And if anybody's doing it, I would put her name forward
It's
as
her.
yeah.
It's her. Dave, I keep referring back to Grohl, but he said it, and he's like, my daughters, he goes, when my daughter played that stuff for me, he's like, and he stood in front of Billie Eilish for the first time, and he was like, it was like I knew what people looked at Nirvana when they saw it for the first time. I was seeing it in her. I was watching these girls. Dude, have you been to a Billie Eilish show?
No.
Dude, it's like every single human being is lipping every word to every song that's not even a fucking airplay song or a fucking Spotify song. They know everything. So she's given hope for albums to come back.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's step one, and does it? No, because Billie Eilish is as punk rock and rock and roll as Nirvana was. It really is.
Mm-hmm.
She's a fucking rebel. She's rad. She doesn't give a shit. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And she says things that people want to say and they can't.
Yeah. Yeah. It's that
There it is. That's rock and roll, man.
that honest, rebellious quality that she has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, isn't that what rock and roll was? Isn't it when it was back to like Little Richard and all this stuff and Elvis and like shit you weren't supposed to say, and it was how dare you and all this shit, but yet it was beautiful music.
Mm-hmm.
She did it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
She did it. And did she do it with the guitar? Nope. So yeah, she's the new rock at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
Do they play her on
Man.
on Q or KQX?
Yeah, we played the
Okay. Okay. Cool.
But see, here's the other thing. We played on 101, but then it goes away when the pop stations play. Like, I don't understand that either, because she's still... I think we get rid of music too quick, too. Do you know what I'm saying? I think we dispose of it too quick, and we don't hang on to our artists. And I think the line is, I think we really abandon our artists for just singles.
Yeah.
I think we need to just bring like a rock band in and support them and slow down. Do you know what I'm saying? It's not about just making money anymore. That's what the record labels do.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to make money and make it quick and roll on. And don't invest in bands anymore or artists anymore. They invest in singles, and it's terrible.
Yeah. 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 It's really short-sighted on their part too, because I think things could be a lot better if they did spend time investing in, helping the artist craft a long career, and
Yes.
Yeah,
man. I mean,
instead of just blips on the radar here
I
and there.
think I'm telling you right now, just because of this pandemic, I'm about 1,000,000% certain in my mind that there's going to come a boom of just creativity from this just being locked into houses.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe a little nudge, or maybe something, or maybe kids playing a guitar because they finally sat down to have time to think about it again.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think it's happening. I mean, what James tells me and all my friends tell me about their kids who are in high school right now, they're rock lovers. They're classic rock people.
Mm-hmm.
They're like really playing like 90s and classic rock, exactly what you said about Rock Band.
Yeah.
I mean, School of Rock.
Yeah, totally.
So, how it went away, there's 20 million. I think it was just a perfect storm of the internet, being a singles world. And when you're internet singles world and we're not looking at, people aren't listening to the radio as much, so you don't know how to do research, like what are they listening to? How do I find out how people are listening to Spotify? And, how are people consuming the way they find music really did that. And I think rock got caught in the crosshairs of that.
Yeah.
And I think I don't think it went away. I just think people aren't seeing it right now. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And it needs one or two bands that are going to come along, and kids are going to be like, fuck yeah. There it is. Remember what was the band that sounds like Led Zeppelin was just out a couple years ago?
Oh, Greta Van Fleet.
Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah.
Remember how fucking hyped that stupid shit was?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
Like, literally, they were Led Zeppelin. It was a copy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay?
Not just an influence, it was a it crossed the line.
No,
Yeah.
it was dead copy. I don't care what anybody says. Everybody's like, oh, I love Greta Van Fleet. Okay, they're talented. But they're not. Robert Plant said it himself. He goes, wow, they sound like a really good beat. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
that's bad.
Yeah.
But you see how much hype it got?
Oh,
that
yeah.
means that people are longing for it again. That right there
That's true, yeah.
just shows you that there's something there. And the ways that Greta Van Fleet, to me, fucked up is that they sounded too much like they did it too well and sounded too much like something that already was.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one that comes along like that, with influences but not exactly sounding like, is going to be the next big thing. And guitars will be back. They're coming back.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I mean, a lot of people I've talked to for this have said something similar. That's like, there's no instrument that's as personal, that you have like that physical, tangible connection to as guitar, that what you put into it, you get out.
You could literally have the same guitar, okay? The exact same one, and give 4 different musicians that guitar, and it'll sound different every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? There's no other instrument like that. You can't make a piano, you know what I'm saying, do that.
Right.
You can play a different style of it, but you can't pull strings, rub shit on it, like fucking Eddie Van Halen, go to the drill against it. Fucking Hendrix played with his teeth. Like, literally, man, it's true. Whoever said that is brilliant, because it means everything. You can put 17 different distortions on it. You can, like, use different stacks. You can use this. You can plug it into... You know what I'm saying? They plugged it into a Leslie speaker to get tremolo. Like, who the fuck?
Yeah.
I got a quick story that's fucking really funny about that.
Okay.
So, one of my good friends, Gary Richards, is the one that sort of brought EDM and, like, Chemical Brothers music back in, like, the early 90s. And Rick Rubin hired him in Los Angeles. You know Rick Rubin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Producer?
Yeah.
So, Rick hired him to be techno boy because he's, like, in Europe, there's all this electronic music, and it's great. And he tried to get it off the ground, and it really never worked. But then Nine Inch Nails was kind of industrial, so kind of keyboardy, but yet still had guitars, but had distortion. So Gary started this band called God Lives Underwater. You got to look them up. It's like crazy.
Okay.
So God Lives Underwater were these guys from Pennsylvania, and it was the first time I ever walked into a room when he went to introduce me to the band that they had IMAX. When IMAX first came out, and 20 like fucking wires going from his guitar into an iMac.
Nice.
And I was like, this is it, dude. Look at what you can do. So You're right. The guitar is the most beautiful, like, instrument that you can play in so many different ways, and each time somebody else touches it, it sounds totally different, or they can make it their own. And it needs to come back. So that's a beautiful thing, man.
Yeah. I mean, if things are going the way we're predicting, then they're both due for a big, resurgence.
It's going to happen.
Both the guitar and rock.
I'm telling you right now, I've never felt it as much in this business as I feel it now. And the hope of my friends telling me their kids and you going to School of Rock, could you believe that fucking Jack Black probably made this fucking happen? You know what I'm saying? Like a fucking movie?
Yeah.
Who, by the way, is Grohl's best boy, who they talked about it all the time, is probably with the movie, why he did so well with the movie. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it's insane.
It all fits together, yeah.
Grohl's going to be the Godfather. He really is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I know he's a big Billie Eilish fan. It would be cool if, he's involved some way, or like, there maybe a collaboration or something like that.
Or brings it back somehow, or she brings it in or something.
Yeah.
Or she finds somebody. Do you see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying? That's shit that usually happens. Do you know what I'm saying? It takes one person to just believe and take a chance. Trust me, when Nirvana came out, like, a lot of people didn't want to play it. When I worked System of a Down, like, there were radio stations that were like, are you shitting me? Like, what, do you hear what this sounds like? Nobody's going to fucking handle that on the radio.
Yeah.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter, man. Music doesn't, you don't have to worry about, we used to worry about playing a soft song next to a hard song. It's just like, your generation got that out of their system, because when you listen to Spotify and you listen to iTunes, it goes from whatever to whatever. There's no such thing as a train wreck segue anymore. There's no such thing. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Is the fucking shit good, or is it not good? And that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Totally.
So,
yeah, I mean, even like in, I feel like there's been a re-examination of like the early 2000s, late 90s music, where for the longest time it was just new metal. Like, my generation looked down on that Korn and Slipknot and stuff. Now kids are reinventing that. It almost seems like there's going to be a renaissance of that too, like that new metal kind of fusing of hip hop and electronic and rock. I've been hearing some of that, and it's pretty cool stuff.
I don't know if Phil told you, that's how I got started.
Oh, really?
So when I was in Cleveland, I'm actually here now visiting my mom.
Oh, okay.
That's when I got on the radio. So I was at a radio station that was top 40 in hip hop because that's what was big then, kind of in the early 90s. And the rock station MMS, when Nirvana and Pearl Jam came out, they wouldn't play it. They just didn't think it was cool. They thought it was too young and it was like metal. And I went to my boss because we knew we were going to get sold, and I had a black general manager. And I said to him, he was the sweetest guy ever. And I said, hey, how come MTV can play Ice-T into Nirvana and then go back into Dre and Snoop and then come back out with Pearl Jam and then go back? I'm like, why can't we do that?
Yeah.
I go, isn't that what Top 40 is? And he's like, it'll never work because they have the visual of videos. That's why it works. I go, bullshit, man. And then Lollapalooza came out, and Pearl Jam and Ice-T were on the same bill. And then I said, fuck this. I want to do a thing called Channel X. And I started to go, okay, well, if you do this show, they go, you got to do it at night, and you got to act like you're taking over our radio station. So if it doesn't work, we don't get blamed for it.
Oh, huh.
So I didn't do anything but play Ice-T into Nirvana, into Onyx, back into like, you know, Pearl Jam, back into Soundgarden, then back into Dre and Snoop, because all my friends' CD collection was just that. It didn't matter, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And all you gotta do is keep slow songs out of it, and I made it the way I sold it was, I'm gonna call it Channel X, and I'm gonna make the first colorless radio station. And it was huge. Rolling Stone wrote about it, all these guys wrote about it, and I was like, it's just what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's like literally what anybody wants. It's aggressive, and it doesn't stop, and it's the best. It's the top 10 best of the black music and the top 10 best of the white music. That's it, man. That's all it fucking was. And it was the extreme. You don't play Salt and Pepper. You just played all the hard shit.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to hear Waterfalls. You're going to hear fucking, you know, like literally.
Public
right?
Enemy.
And
Yeah.
and then Tupac. And I went from Pac back into, like, Bleach. Like, that's crazy. And it was huge. But then radio stations started to do 24 hours a day, which you can't do because that's too much for people. It's like having a mix show, back and doing a whole 24-hour radio station that's all just mixes. People are like, they'll get sick of it too quick.
Yeah.
And that's what they did. They killed the format. Then all of a sudden, Limp Bizkit came out, doing exactly what I was doing on the radio, combining both.
Yeah,
That's
and it's
it,
huge.
man.
That's
So
funny.
that shit's going to come back. I'm telling you, Limp Bizkit's going to be big again. I'm going to throw myself on the roof. But if it does, it's great.
It's going to happen.
You know what I'm saying? It's exactly what we were trying to say back in the 90s and the early. That, okay, yeah, grunge is great, but still, there's the whole East Coast, West Coast, Biggie and fucking Tupac thing going on that's fucking rad, too. Like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I think
that's where Walk This Way came in with Aerosmith and all that shit. That was a whole surge.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And it's happening again because, like, when I was talking to these kids, I was like, how about the other kids at your school? I know I'm talking to, like, I'm preaching to the choir of these School of Rock kids. Obviously, they're into rock. But, you know, do the other kids like rock or do they like just hip-hop and stuff? And they're like, well, they like a lot of hip-hop, but so do I. Like, I listen to just as much, you know, Travis Scott as I do of, I don't know, I can't even think of the bands there. King Gizzard,
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
And I think
Travis Scott is amazing, man.
he is, yeah. And that's the thing. They recognize good for good. They don't look at it.
All of his live shows are from fucking, he watched Motley Crue's drum set go upside down, and that's why he put the roller coaster on
Oh,
stage.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah, man. Like, that shit, like, this is crazy. It's gonna do it. It's gonna happen, man.
Yeah.
The whole guitar thing's gonna happen.
Yeah.
And if it comes back with hip-hop, fuck, that'd even be greater, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What that generation is going to put out is going to be really unique. You know, I think we're starting to see it with Billie Eilish, but I think it's just like the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so, man. And I hope, but the guitar is going to come back because the Z generation is playing stuff again. And the Z generation doesn't care about doing it the easy way, I think. I think they want to go back to the roots of how things started. And that's going to be the cool thing for them. Where your generation was creating new ways of doing that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're going to go back to the original way because they're bored with it that way. Which is fine. So what?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's exciting. Yeah.
it's fucking exciting, man. I mean, look at what we're doing from our houses.
Yeah, I know.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we all knew this could happen, but it was a lot of people's nightmare, old people's nightmare. Do you see what I'm saying? Because we were afraid that we're not going to be around each other. We're around people more now than ever.
Yeah.
You're with the people that you love, you're with doing, and you're doing your job and creating and doing stuff where you can be in a different part of the world and still go to work that day. That's fucking amazing.
Totally.
You know?
Totally.
It's crazy. Sorry, I'm getting off on a totally...
No. It's cool. And I think people are... I don't know. I've been putting more thought lately into where stuff comes from. You know, we're talking about like essential workers. And I'm like, you know, the stuff that I buy online is not just appearing out of thin air. You know, you realize how many people are at play. Putting that whole product together, then the logistics of shipping it out to you. And I think people might be thinking about music the same way now. Appreciating it more, taking time to listen to it.
You're absolutely correct, dude. You are. Like, everybody got used to just looking, it appeared on your doorstep.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think people really are doing that. And you're exactly right. That's what's going to happen with music. It's going to go back to the instruments. It's going to go back to real musicians.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So,
yeah.
Beautiful, bro.
Yeah. Hey, we covered a bunch. And I think we covered like all the questions that I had typed out here, just by like flowing.
If I missed anything or anything, just text me.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Whatever. Ask me a question.
Cool.
Or I'll send you an audio comment or whatever you want me to do. I don't care. Or I'll call you back.
Nice. I think you have Are you on at 3? I think I saw online that your shift is at 3.
Yeah, 3 to 7.
Okay.
Monday through Saturday, 3 to 7.
Cool. I won't keep you.
I'm off this week.
Oh, you're off this week. Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
We got furloughed, bro.
You did?
Yeah, we have to do 3 separate furlough weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, man.
No, man, dude, this is what radio does. You know?
Yeah.
So, I'm blessed. I have a great career.
Yeah.
If this is the end of radio, it's the end of radio. Then I'm going to do the next thing. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah,
hopefully
totally.
With a guitar.
Yeah.
Even though I'm a drummer.
Are you in a band?
No. But that's how all my life I played drums. That's how I got to college. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I always wanted to be a recording studio engineer. That was it. That's the only reason why I wanted. Because I knew being in a band is like the fucking fat chance you're gonna make it. But if I can help people make it, it'd be great. You know?
Yeah, totally.
And then I went to go to engineering school, and in engineering school I met a radio dude, and that was it.
Oh, okay.
It was over.
Cool.
So,
I want to ask you though. Yeah, one last thing. Do you have any stories about Phil from in the early days?
Oh, Phil. I don't know if I can remember specific stories about Phil, but I can tell you one thing about Phil.
Okay.
That he is one of the most beautiful, like, just amazing human beings. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And he really cares about people, man.
Mm-hmm.
And the shit that he would do, it's just, he was always fucking happy. I don't know if he still is now, but he was always, like, smiling. And then when his, like, Tourette's would kick, he'd just be like, oh, bro.
Oh, yeah.
And I just start laughing. Like, he's the, like, the funniest dude on the planet. I don't know if he still does it now, but back then, it, like, would kick in every now and then. And he'd start to twitch.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, bro, relax. And he'd get all fucking pumped up about something. You know what I'm saying?
He's
and
exactly.
He'd start twitching when he get pumped up.
He's the same. Yeah, he's totally the same. He's my.
That's awesome.
I mean, he's my favorite boss that I've ever had, and the only thing.
So what do you guys? Oh, I know you work at ZZ, but what goes on at ZZ Sound? Like, because I buy all the stuff, my stuff from you guys.
Oh, nice, good. What goes on?
Literally, I buy all my equipment from you guys.
That's awesome. I hope Phil gives you a good discount too.
No, I didn't know he worked there. So he wrote me this.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I don't even know what he does there. Like, what does he do?
Oh, he's the marketing director.
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah, and we're here in Chicago. We're just an online store. We started off. I don't know if you were living in Chicago in the '90s, but
yeah, I was.
They had a store, like a physical store, in Old Town. I think on North, and I forget what the other street was, but right by like the Second City and the Old Town School.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah. But then they shifted to just be online. So the marketing team, we just do like we send out emails to our subscriber list about new gear. We have the social department and the video. Like we do, I don't know if you've seen like our YouTube channel, but we do video gear demos and all kinds of stuff.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So Phil runs the show.
Because when I didn't have look, being in radio, sometimes you get then on cash, and I remember back in the day, I would do the three. You guys can split your payments and stuff.
Uh-huh.
It was incredible. That's why I'm this is the greatest place ever.
That's our bread and butter.
Because of that, bro.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now, because of that.
Yeah.
I always buy from you guys.
That's awesome.
Musicians don't have money, man.
Yeah.
So to be able to split it up like that, it's fucking rad, dude.
I know. It's a genius business plan. Whoever thought of it.
Yep. It's genius.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Well, dude, if you need anything else from me or anything, or if I think of a good Phil story that comes to mind,
yeah.
I'll be sure to text you.
Please do.
Or if you
yeah.
need to call me, just call me anytime or email me and hit me up with a question and I'll get it to you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks.
I hope I didn't